After those long dark nights, now my world is bright. Islam is my sight. Now I found the light. After those long dark nights, now my world is bright. Islam is my sight.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to The Straight Path. I'm your host, Fuad Muhammad. In a previous episode, we talked about a practical way of implementing unity, especially with Muslims living as a minority in non-Muslim countries. But today we're going to talk about achieving unity within ourselves. So to talk more about this, we have the pleasure of having with us Dr. Saif from India, and as well Brother Aman Paul from the UK, and as well Sheikh Haytham Al-Haddad, the director of the Muslim Research and Development Foundation, an organization and a think tank which is aimed towards finding the solution of Muslims in the West. Thank you for being with us, Sheikh. We were talking about the practical way of implementing unity within the Muslim Ummah. But then comes the difference of opinions. There are differences that we can tolerate and differences that we cannot tolerate.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Nabiyana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. The differences that we can tolerate are the differences that carried out of good intention. Now, if someone has a problem in his eye, okay, illness in his eye, and he went to Dr. X, not Dr. Saifuddin, okay, but another doctor, and he said, the doctor told him that you have to take this kind of medicine. And then he wanted to investigate because this is a sensitive issue. It is related to his eyesight. And then he went to another doctor. And the other doctor told him, no, be careful. That medicine might what? Cause you to lose your eyesight. What are you going to do? What any human being is going to do? Is he going to say, well, but I used to go to Dr. X and he is my school of thought, I should follow him irrespective of the situation? No. No one would say this. He will say, well, no, this is a sensitive issue. Let me investigate more.
Sheikh, once you get to this stage and you've gone to one doctor or one madhab and you've seen another madhab's reply and you've seen this difference in front of you, how can you practically work out for yourself which is closer to the sunnah? Sincerity. How can I do this?
Okay. The first step, just before that, the first step, let us establish the fact that in some cases, when we hear that there is another view, let us take it one step further. As I said, Dr. X told me this, Dr. Y told me this, and the matter is sensitive, let me take it one step further. I will put what? More effort towards understanding the haqq, towards studying the issue. Yes. I will put an effort to understand what has this medicine to do with the eye? What are the main components of the ingredients of this medicine? Who said that this will badly affect my eye and so on? I will investigate the matter further. Similarly, when X scholar said that this is halal and Y scholar said that this is haram, I cannot just pick and choose. That's why all scholars agreed that picking and choosing from the madhahib is something that is not allowed. Imam Ahmad stated that clearly. Yahya ibn Ma'in stated that as well. And they said, "Man tatabba'a rukhas al-fuqaha faqad tazandaq." The one who follows the concessions of the fuqaha, he is actually becoming heretic. Now, this is from a rational point of view. At the end of the day, what are you going to do? You will take it one step further. From a practical point of view, yes, you might reach to a situation that, well, I investigated, okay, but I reach to a point that I cannot know which one is the truth. Okay, let us take the example of the eyesight. Okay? Let me ask you, Aman, what are you going to do if one doctor told you, yes, go for this, and the other doctor told you, no, be careful. If you go for this, this will harm your eye and you might lose eyesight. You try to investigate this issue further and you could not reach to anything. What are you going to do?
Either, well, it's a doubtful matter, Sheikh, so either I'm going to continue asking and researching, and ask a third opinion. Just don't go for anything and wait. Or I can't see what else I would do, because I'm not in a position to be able to. I've got no experience, so I'm left as a layperson.
I would take the safer opinion.
Exactly.
The safer
Exactly.
opinion.
So either you will investigate more, or at the end of the day, you are going to what? You are going to
Leave that
put
out.
yourself on the safe side. Okay? Is that true or not?
Yes, sir.
That's why even from an usuli point of view, the scholar said, if there is a matter of differences, and according to one opinion, you might be subject to punishment or la'an or cursing from Allah Jalla wa Ala, or might be subject to do something haram, and on the other hand, the other opinion is not subjecting you to this, abstain and put yourself on the safe side. Okay? See, yani from an usuli perspective, from an Islamic perspective, it goes in line with what?
Common sense.
Yes, our ration, with the common sense.
Yes.
Okay? So this is one way of dealing with that. Now, this means that we can study according to one madhab. But while we are studying, we knew that there is another madhab, or there is another opinion in this particular issue, in contrary to our opinion, and it is closer to the haqq, then we should investigate. And if we knew that the other opinion is stronger, then we adopt it, as simple as that. And this, brothers, and even for the audience, this goes with the nature that Allah Jalla wa Ala, with the nature of our intellects that Allah Jalla wa Ala created us according. Why? Because Allah Jalla wa Ala wants us to what? To think, to reflect, to see the signs of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and not to say, as Allah Jalla wa Ala condemned the kuffar, Inna wajadna aba'ana ala ummah. We have seen our ancestors following this path, and we never investigated, we never put any effort to know the haqq, and we just followed their path. That's why Ash-Shanqiti, when he spoke about this ayah, and he said those muqallida, those who just blindly following one school of thought or one opinion, are included in this condemnation mentioned by Allah Jalla wa Ala, because they don't want to put an effort. And moreover, he said that they fooled themselves by thinking that by just following the imam or the scholar, they put themselves in the safe side and they are not to be blamed. He said no, because the person in the worldly matters, he will blame himself if he put himself on risk, because he did not investigate the issue. What about the issues related to his akhirah? Shall he stay and say, well, I am not to be blamed, my imam is the one to be blamed?
Yeah, because this is a normal excuse we always find, because especially people who are busy at jobs and so forth, they always use the excuse that we don't have the prerequisite even to look into the matter, so we'll just take one school of thought and call it a day.
So it's important you have the sincerity to search
Exactly. That's why, you remember, we said that the criteria is what? The motivation behind what? The action. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. The motivation is very important. So if the person is sincere in following the haqq, he will be excused. But if he did not put any effort to follow the haqq, then the blame comes.
And making the effort, Sheikh, it should be on every single Muslim.
Of course, according to his ability. We have to be careful, because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِأَمْرٍ, if I command you to do something, then do as much as you can. Allah Jalla wa Ala says, اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, fear Allah as much as you can. So according to the ability. And التكليف, as the scholar said, التكليف منوط بالاستطاعة. Yani the criteria of taklif, okay, is istita'a, is the ability to do it. So if you are able to do so, then do it. It is not fair upon the person to put effort to know the materialistic issues and not to know his religion, his deen. And many people claim that they are busy and they are involved in so many things, okay, but they don't want to put any effort to learn their deen. And all of us know that people spend a lot of time to watch videos, to watch TV, more than, okay, that they can spend to learn their religion. And then when you ask them to investigate a little bit, to study a little bit, they will say, well, okay, no, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, and they start giving these excuses, and we are busy, etc., etc.
Also, Ustaz, there is a reward when you make ijtihad. Even if you are wrong, there's a reward.
Yes, this is another issue
If you're
to
sincere.
be added, because the person who is putting effort means ijtihad, okay? And he got the haqq, he will get 2 rewards.
Okay. Okay, Sheikh, we'll take a short break now. When I come back, we'll talk about how as Muslims so we can understand each other, even though we're following different opinions. Stay tuned for more on The Straight Path.
It's light.
Welcome back. You're watching The Straight Path. We're talking how to deal with a difference of opinions in a different school of thought and how not to make it a barrier towards unity. Sheikh, in the very first segment, you mentioned the story of Ibn Abbas and Zayd. And what are the etiquettes we can take from this story and just to work on unity, even though we have difference of opinions?
Yes, this is a very interesting story. Ibn Abbas and Zayd, both of them among the kibar of the Sahaba, the great scholars of the Sahaba, and both of them are specialized in fara'id. You know, afradukum Zayd, the Prophet ﷺ said about Zayd. Now, they used to differ. Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Ibn Abbas used to hold different opinions on one mas'ala of fara'id. And the issue of the inheritance or the share of the grandfather if there is no father. Means if a person dies and he has a grandfather and brothers, who is going to take the inheritance, the assets? Is it the grandfather only, or the brothers, or the brothers share with the grandfather? And this issue is a very important issue, and I don't know whether we have time to discuss it and to elaborate on it more. Anyway, Ibn Abbas used to say, أَلَا يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ زَيْد, shouldn't Zayd fear Allah Jalla wa'ala? He considered the grandson as a son, and he doesn't consider the grandfather as a father. Means Ibn Abbas used to believe that the grandfather should take all the assets, and Zayd used to believe that the grandfather should share
With the sons.
the assets with the brothers. With the brothers.
With the brothers.
So Ibn Abbas used to say, ألا يتق الله زيد يجعل ابن الابن ابنا ولا يجعل أبا الأب أبا. He considered the grandson as a son. So he takes the wealth. And he does not consider the grandfather as a father, means, and he should take the whole wealth. Now this is a mas'ala, fiqhi mas'ala. And even Ibn Abbas used to call for mubahala with Zayd. تعالوا ندعو أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. Means we gather our children and our families, and you gather your families, and we go to Kaaba and we ask the curse of Allah Jalla wa Ala to fall upon the people who are not following the haqq.
Subhanallah.
To that degree. Now someone might say, wow, subhanallah, what is this? This is something we cannot imagine, we cannot comprehend on. And when Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu met Zayd, Zayd, although he was older than Ibn Abbas, he took the hand of Ibn Abbas and he kissed his hand. Ibn Abbas was amazed. What are you doing, Zayd? Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu told Ibn Abbas, هكذا أمرنا أن نفعل بقرابة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is how we were commanded to respect the relatives of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, because you know Ibn Abbas is the cousin of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ibn Abbas, one time he saw Zayd, and Zayd was riding a camel, and Ibn Abbas started to take the lead of the camel to guide the camel. Zayd told Ibn Abbas, Ibn Abbas, you are the relative of the Prophet ﷺ. Why do you do that? He said, and this is how we were commanded to treat our elderly people and our scholars. When Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu ta'ala anhu died, Ibn Abbas said, لَقَدْ مَاتَ الْيَوْمَ عِلْمٌ كَثِيرٌ رَحِمَ اللَّهُ زَيْدًا. He was not happy that Zayd died because he holds a different opinion and that opinion will not be a prevalent opinion. He said, Rahimallahu, look at this, subhanAllah. Rahimallahu Zayd. May Allah have mercy upon Zayd. Today, ilm kathir, a great amount of ilm and knowledge have disappeared because of the death of Zayd. This is a typical example. There are many examples in our history. Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. Ash-Shafi'i died in 204. He said, I never saw a person who is more wise than Yunus al-Sadafi. Yunus al-Sadafi, one of the scholars at his time. He said, أخذ بيدي يوما فقال يا أخي ألا يمنعنا أن نكون إخوة ولو لم نتفق في مسألة. Shouldn't be brothers even if we disagree on all matters.
SubhanAllah.
Of course, on all matters within this realm that we have mentioned. That's why Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said, ولو أن كل مسلمين اختلفا تفرقا لم يبق في المسلمين عصمة. Every two single Muslims disagree on something, they become what? Disunited, and they fight against each other. Then the unity among Muslims, the isma among the body of the Muslims, okay, will not remain intact because every two single Muslims might differ. And there are various examples if we start to talk about those examples and how the Sahaba and how the people after Sahaba used to deal with these differences, then I think it will take so many episodes. But the point here is we need to be able to tolerate these views. And as I said in the beginning, before jumping into a conclusion, let us try to understand the motivation behind that opinion, provided that especially we as Tullab al-Ilm or the seekers of knowledge, we know that this opinion is held by another school of thought. So if we know that this person is a Talib al-Ilm, why to jump to the conclusion that he is wrong and we should not pray behind him and we should not accept? Or even sometimes we say that he is not following the Sunnah. We think that the Sunnah is limited to what we do, and others, when they pray differently, they are not following the Sunnah, and we are the people following the Sunnah. This is one of the big mistakes many people fell into. Once we observe that, and once we have this kind of etiquette, then the hearts will come together, insha'Allah, and then we might achieve a unity on a smaller scale, and then that unity, inshallah, will be expanded.
But who's responsible to relate these information to the normal Muslims? I mean, sometimes, the layperson of the madhab, he's the one who makes the most problems. You understand, saying that I'm Hanafi or I'm Shafi'i. But who should bring that understanding towards them? Is it upon the leaders of the community?
Yes, actually, this is true. The leaders, the scholars, should teach their students and the lay people that there is something called etiquette of differences. And they should teach their students how to deal with others who hold different views. This is upon the scholars, okay, in the first place. And the scholars, by the way, should not teach students fiqh only. They should teach fiqh in the right perspective. Some of our scholars said one of the mistakes that we fall into is when we teach fiqh in isolation of our life. And in reality, fiqh is our life. So we should teach fiqh in the right perspective, that it is part of our life. For example, and I remember we used to study with this scholar, and we came to Kitab al-Janaiz, the chapter of funerals. And he said the fuqaha, when they teach this, they were talking about it from a technical point of view, but the one who is teaching this, he should teach it from a fiqh point of view and from a spiritual point of view, because we are talking about death, and we are talking about the biggest challenge. قُلْ فَدْرَأُوا عَنْ أَنفُسِكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. And Allah Jalla wa Ala challenged all okay, with this death. We ignore the spirituality of what we are studying. We are studying how to put the dead person in the grave we are talking about the grave, whether it is lahd or whether it is shaq. And sometimes we ignore that we are going to the grave and what we are going to face there while we are studying it. Why? Because we have an isolation between what? Fiqh and spirituality. Similarly, we have isolated fiqh from tarbiyah, from etiquettes, from akhlaq, from manners. And this is one of the big mistakes many people who teach fiqh fell into.
SubhanAllah. So Sheikh, we have about 1 or 2 minutes remaining on the show. I mean, what is your message to the people out there and to us as well about the people who are following a madhab or a school of thought and opinions that are different from you? How can we merge it all together to live as a unified ummah?
Yeah, the first thing is, brothers and sisters, let us remove hatred from our hearts towards Muslims and let us force ourselves to love each other. As the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Muslimu akhul Muslim, la yadlimuhu wa la yuslimuhu. The Muslim is the brother of the Muslim. He does not oppress him. He does not forsake him. And this is the essence of unity, to love each other. The Prophet ﷺ, when he migrated, in Hadith al-Tirmidhi, when he migrated to Medina, and he was a new leader coming to this new society, what was the first sermon that he gave to the people? People are expecting someone to speak about the policy. He said, أَلَا أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ إِن فَعَلْتُمُوهُ تَحَابَبْتُمْ إِفْشُوا السَّلَامَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Should I tell you about something? If you spread it, you will love each other. أَفْشُوا السَّلَامَ. Spread salam among yourself. So the Prophet ﷺ was keen that this love between the members of this new community or this new society to have. That's why he said, spread salam. Spread salam. And the other thing, in the Quran we see, Allah Jalla wa Ala says, قُلْ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَقُولُوا الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Command the believers to what? To say that is better. That's why the scholar said, if you have your brother, don't call him with the name that he doesn't like. Call him with the name that he likes the most. Why? Because this will put love between you and him.
Okay.
So this is, of course, in 2 minutes, this is the message that I can say. Of course, we have said more about this important issue.
Sheikh Haytham Al-Haddad, thank you very much for being with us on the Straight Path. We hope to have you sometime more in the future, inshallah. Dr. Saif and Brother Aman Paul, it's always a pleasure having you on the Straight Path. And of course, the message is to remove hatred for the other Muslims who follow a different opinion. We should always spread love between ourselves. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
After those